Custom Coasters International was only around for a decade, but they made their mark on the coaster industry. From 1992 to 2002, they were godsends to smaller parks. They provide fantastic wood coaster layouts for relatively low prices. Their rides did require a lot of upkeep, but parks that were up to the task were rewarded. A few of their coasters claim the top spots in wood coaster polls, and many are still loved to this day. So in this video, I will rank this company's top 25 wood coasters I've personally ridden. I previously made this list a few years ago, but it definitely needed to be updated. Not only did multiple spots change, but the original video embarrassingly had 0 video clips. It was all photos. I also want to note the CCI Woodies I have not experienced. This includes New Mexico Rattler at Cliffs Amusement Park, Megaphobia at Oakwood, and their defunct ones. Lastly, I already have reviews published for roughly half of these coasters, including everything in the top 3 if you want more in-depth thoughts. Number 25, Zach Zoomer at Michigan's Adventure. This is a junior wood coaster similar to the Woodstock Express and Ghoster coasters at the other Cedar Fair parks. It is a smidge taller, but the ride feels nearly identical. It's smooth and mostly tame, but you get a pinch of laterals and an airtime pop at least. Number 24, Underground at Adventureland. This really is a dark ride, but it's a gravity-powered wood coaster system. Not sure why the park went that route, but hey, it is a credit. While I do enjoy dark rides, and this one has some okay sets, there are 2 main flaws. 1, the train travels past them way too quickly. 2, and more importantly, the effects trigger when the front of the train passes them. And since this is a decently long 5-car train, your experience is much weaker towards the back. Number 23, Pegasus at Mount Olympus. This is a weird one. It has the stats of a junior coaster, but the laterals in this ride are no joke. Every time you change direction, you get slammed to the side of the train. It reminds me more of a Wild Mouse. Then you also have that infamous kink returning to the station. I still do not understand how that came to be. Some may find this coaster too uncomfortable, but I can appreciate sudden laterals like this. Number 22, Tomahawk at PortAventura. This junior wood coaster is intertwined with a bigger Stampida, but still has its moments, particularly if you like laterals. The big turn midway through the ride offers sustained laterals, and the tight turns towards the end have some lateral jolts like the prior ride in this list. Then the final drop has some airtime in the back as a bonus. And no matter which row you ride in, this coaster is fairly smooth. Number 21, Hoosier Hurricane at Indiana Beach. Let's start with the good. I love this ride setting over the water. It is so picturesque. You get great views of both the lake and the park. The ride was running very smoothly when I last rode 3 years ago, but I have heard it's starting to get a little shaky again. And you have buzz bars, which leave you with plenty of room for rides with airtime. Just too bad this coaster has barely any. That's especially disappointing when you have so many bunny hills. Number 20, Kingdom Coaster at Dutch Wonderland. This was the first CCI, and it is perfect for what this Pennsylvanian family park wanted. It's not too extreme, but it has some fun moments. Some hills offer smaller spurts of airtime, and the Helix finale has some laterals. And this ride is running very smoothly after 3 decades of operation. Number 19, Outlaw at Adventureland. This ride looks like a GCI, which makes sense because the lead designer went on to form that company. While the layout looks promising, it only has some okay laterals and weak pops of airtime, although the latter are at least maximized by buzz bar restraints. Number 18, Stampida at PortAventura. This racing wood coaster has a ton of potential. The racing aspect is excellent because the tracks remain in close proximity to each other for much of the course, and the layout is great. This coaster is a convoluted course. All of the turns offer laterals, and you have some decent airtime in the first half, but this coaster really fades by the end. A trim on the first drop takes away so much speed that you crawl at points towards the end. This coaster also can be shaky in certain rows, so beware. Number 17, Silver Comet at Niagara Amusement Park. I am so glad this coaster reopened after being SB&O for a few years. While it wasn't running in peak form last year, it was running very smoothly thanks to recent track work. The airtime never was as good as the other CCIs, but was particularly weak in 2022. The turns were as good as ever at least. They had nice laterals, particularly towards the front of the train. Number 16. Timber Terror at Silverwood. I love this coaster's first half. You get some great floater airtime on each hill. Then the far turnaround levies on the laterals. But the return run is a major disappointment. It doesn't really have any airtime. If it did, this coaster would have been darn close to the top 10. Now this coaster was running smooth when I last rode it, but there has been a big change since then. The buzz bars have been swapped out for more restrictive individual ratcheting lap bars. Number 15. Zeus at Mount Olympus. This out and back coaster was saved by a major retrack a few years ago. Now, it's a very smooth and enjoyable coaster. This ride uses the terrain, but it essentially has a basic out and back layout. The bunny hills stay low to the ground, so they offer some nice floater airtime. Then the turns dish out good laterals, even the one in the pre-lift. Number 14. Boss at Six Flags St. Louis. This is a monstrous wood coaster. It is one of the biggest traditional wood coasters out there in terms of scale and length. I love the speed this ride carries in the first half's valleys. The little hills have a good mix of floater airtime and great laterals. Then the large drops off the turnarounds offer decent airtime as well. However, the second half's pacing and power is killed by a harsh mid-course trim, but the final bunny hills are still very strong at least. I know some find this ride too rough, but I've always found it very tolerable. Two things could help this ride move up in the future. One, a night ride. That wooded setting would lend itself well to one. Two, a trimless ride, although I believe that is exceedingly rare. Number 13. Great White at Morey's Piers. Located on the beach, few wood coasters have a better view, and this ride matches those visuals with a satisfying ride too. The layout is very balanced. You have good laterals on the turns and valleys. Then there are some airtime moments as well, particularly in the return run. This ride is also running very smoothly. The only rough part I noted in 2021 was apparently fixed last year. Number 12. Cyclops at Mount Olympus. I have not ridden this coaster since its recent retrack, and I have heard some of its power may have been reduced. But back when I rode it in 2019, it had some of the strongest airtime of any wood coaster. Everyone talks about the iconic final plunge, which truly offers some great ejector airtime. But I thought the first two drops delivered equally as intense airtime. Most of the ride was smooth. Some of the turns were shaky, but they did offer some mild laterals. This ride is short and has an unconventional layout, but the drops pack a wallop. Number 11. Lost Coaster at Superstition Mountain at Indiana Beach. I have absolutely no clue why CCI was asked to build this ride, but thank you. This ride truly is one of a kind. This park decided to close a classic dark ride and somehow shoehorned a wood coaster inside. The clearances are far too tight for traditional vehicles, which is why you have borderline hairpin turns and caged cars. This ride is just a top speed of 20 miles per hour or 32 kilometers per hour, but do not be fooled. You will still get some airtime and downright violent laterals. That is especially true if you experience this coaster going backwards. This is also one of the few rides where the roughness enhances the experience. It just adds to the chaos and never gets uncomfortable because of the highly padded cars. Number 10. Excalibur at Funtown, USA. This is an underrated one. It is another with a wonderfully wooded setting and a diversified layout. The first half has several great airtime moments. The large drops deliver nice floater airtime in the back, while the front gets more aggressive pops going into the turnarounds. The second half is probably higher than it should have been, and the train loses quite a bit of speed, but you still get some very sustained laterals from the minimal banking, so I don't consider it much of an issue. And this ride was running smoother than it had in a decade in 2021. Number 9. Tonnerre de Zeus at Park Asterix. I have not ridden this coaster since the Gravity Group upgrade, but I still enjoyed it, and that was even with the coaster running very sluggishly on a cool April day. It was taken 10 seconds longer to hit the final brake run than most POVs I've seen. The larger drops had some spectacular ejector airtime, rivaling some of CCI's best drops stateside. Then the turns and helixes are severely underbanked, so you get some wonderful laterals too. Unfortunately, the bunny hills towards the middle just didn't have the airtime I expected. I am excited to get back on this ride not only to try the new modifications, but I have to think it'll run better on a warmer day. Number 8. Cornball Express at Indiana Beach. Now this is how a wood coaster with buzz bars should run. There are 3 to 4 drops with some fantastic ejector airtime in the back car. Make sure to ride back there. The front is still good though because you have some strong airtime pops as well. But this ride does more than just negative Gs. You have a minimally banked helix with great laterals, and this ride has such a unique placement wrapping around pre-existing attractions and going over the water. Number 7. Legend at Holiday World. This is one of the premier coasters in the world for laterals. Almost every turn will pin riders to the side of the train, but no moment shines greater than the legendary double helix that glues you to the side of the train for 15 straight seconds. Those laterals are insane. But this coaster does so much more. You have some airtime, particularly in the final hills and that 4th hill, and the setting is really cool too. Part of it dodges water slides, other parts are deep in the woods. This is why Legend and Another Holiday World Woody are such strong night rides. Speaking of which, number 6, Raven at Holiday World. This wood coaster is over faster than anyone would like, but it's action-packed start to finish, and it gets stronger as it goes. The first half has some decent airtime and a picturesque turn by the water, but things get absolutely out of control in the second half. The 5th drop is one of my favorite of any coaster. It has some violent ejector airtime in the back, and it plunges you into the woods. The second half feels unnaturally fast as you whiz past trees and around several turns offering powerful laterals. Number 5. Tremors at Silverwood. This ride feels sort of like Legend, just with better airtime. You have some really good laterals, particularly in the turnaround towards the start. You have a windy layout that keeps you on your toes with all the tunnels. And then of course, you have those negative G moments. The bunny hills have great sustained floater in any row. Then the larger drops really throw you from your seat in the back. And this is another one that offers a very dark and thrilling night ride. Number 4. Rampage at Alabama Splash Adventure. This is another wood coaster doing a little of everything. No matter where you sit, you'll get some aggressive laterals going into all the turns. A few hills offer airtime for all, but you really need to ride this coaster in the back to maximize the airtime. The first 2 drops and final 2 hills offer some great ejector airtime back there. And despite the wild layout, this ride was running like a dream when I last rode it in 2019. Number 3. GhostRider at Knott's Berry Farm. I know some consider this a GCI coaster now because they did that huge retrack and altered some profiling, but to me, this is still a CCI layout. The coaster is brilliantly designed. The first half has some larger hills with solid airtime, but this coaster ups the ante in the second half. The drop off the former mid-course has wicked ejector airtime. Then it feels out of control as you charge through the structure. You have amazing speed and near misses, plus a series of airtime pops and lateral jolts. And speaking of laterals, this ride ends with one of the most forceful helixes on any coaster. Those lats are every bit as good as those on Legend, and this ride is still running smoothly 7 years after the major retrack. Number 2. Boulder Dash at Lake Compounce. This may be CCI's most impressive construction job. This is a massive wood coaster built in a heavily wooded mountainside. This setting makes this coaster special. The coaster is fast to begin with, but the near misses with trees make the experience even better. Because of how this coaster uses the terrain, it never slows down. The pacing is incredible. This coaster has an out and back layout with plenty of airtime moments. It's mostly floater, but you do have 2 ejector pops in the outward leg. Then this ride also mixes in some sneaky laterals. The first few elements in far turnaround all pin you to your seat. Then there are some subtle changes of direction between the hills that give quick lateral jolts. I know this ride can get a little rough further back in the train, but it's just as special for me as ever up front. That's especially true at night. This is a magical experience in the dark. You cannot see a thing. And coming in number 1 is Shivering Timbers at Michigan's Adventure. This ride looks like a wooden hypercoaster. I know it's not nearly 20 stories tall, but the placement and dense supports make it look taller than it really is. This is one of the best rides in the world for airtime. You have roughly 1 mile of track, and almost all of it is made up of camelbacks and bunny hills. Every single hill offers strong and sustained floater airtime. It feels like you're out of your seat more than you're in it. And then you also get some sneaky laterals on the far turnaround and the final helix. This layout would be downright brutal if it got rough given its length, but Cedar Fair has thankfully taken very good care of this ride. I almost gave the edge to Boulder Dash at night, but I cannot look past the absurd quantity of quality airtime. So that's how I would rank the 25 CCI coasters I have experienced thus far. What are your thoughts on this manufacturer, or any of their rides? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this countdown, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.